Here's a 5-step process that you can use to get rid of, reduce, or eliminate your anxiety. Hi, I'm Jeff Chand, acupuncturist, practitioner of traditional Chinese medicine, and Qigong instructor. And in this video, I want to discuss a simple 5-step process that you can use to eliminate anxiety. Anxiety is a combination of different physical symptoms and emotions that create this whole package that can make us feel pretty horrible. It could include things like tightness in the chest, difficulty breathing, palpitations where the heart is beating quickly for no reason, perspiring or sweating, sweaty palms, dry mouth, and the thoughts can be looping around and around and around. There are several different reasons why this can happen according to Western medicine, and neuroscience is actually looking at this a lot in the last little while and has identified generalized anxiety disorder, which is an actual recognized condition according to the DSM. So it is a real symptom and it's a real syndrome that a lot of people suffer with. So in this video, we're going to discuss 5 things that you can do immediately right now that can help reduce or eliminate your anxiety. Now the first number one thing is, if you're feeling that sense of anxiety, is get your body moving. So not swinging around lightly, not bouncing up and down, but actually just really moving. Ideally, get outside, run around the block, do a brisk walk, do some squats, push-ups, body weight exercises. On YouTube, you can find tons of high-intensity interval training routines that will really get your heart rate up. The reason is because when we get anxiety, it triggers this fight, flight, or freeze mechanism. And that's built into our genetics to be able to run away from a perceived threat or a danger. And so our body's primed to move, either run away or fight it. So we have all these hormones in our system and all this energy that's ready to be used. So when we get some sort of perceived or real danger, our body's primed to actually fight or flight or freeze, but we need to get the body moving. Often people will find that if they get an anxiety level, say it's 10 out of 10, and they get their body moving, it can drop it down to maybe 6 out of 10 even. So you need to find something that will fit in your schedule and in your lifestyle. So if you have the ability to go outside and run around, then do that. But if you don't, then maybe just do some jumping jacks or these body weight exercises. The second step is to identify the root problem. Anxiety is an emotion that's based in fear, and there's some sort of fear that your anxiety might be rooted in. In some cases, there's no reason at all for anxiety, and in that case, it's often hormone related. But for most people, there can be some thought that starts off this cycle of anxiety. So in step number 2, you need to identify exactly what that root thought is. So it may take a little bit of time to just dig through to figure out what it is exactly, because you may think it's something, but as you dig further, then you realize, oh no, it's something else. But you have to get right down and right to the root of the problem. The more you do this, the better you will get. This is called mindfulness-based stress reduction. We become mindful of the stressor, and that actually reduces the stress or the anxiety. So identify the root problem. The third step is, once you identify this root problem, it's up to you to decide, is it a reasonable problem to have or is it unreasonable? If there's some real problem, like you haven't done your taxes and the tax man is going to come after you, that's probably a reasonable problem. Or if there's something like you forgot to turn off the stove, that might be a reasonable problem. But if it's something unreasonable, it could be something like, what did they mean when they said this? Why did they look at me in that funny way? What if they don't like what I'm doing? That's an unreasonable fear. It's not life-threatening. Some things are going to be life-threatening and safety-threatening, and some are not going to be. So once you decide if something's reasonable or unreasonable, then you move on to step number 4, which is take immediate action. If it's a reasonable fear or anxiety, then you have to take immediate action. Go and check to see if the stove is still on, or your curling iron, or if there's some safety issue. You have to take immediate action. Don't put it off till later. Don't think about it. Don't just try to breathe and get rid of that feeling, because you need to take action if it's a reasonable threat. If it's an unreasonable threat, then you need to practice letting it go. And I say the word practice letting it go because it's not something that just easily happens. You have to practice letting it go. The first time that you try to let go of an unreasonable threat, it may be very difficult and you might not be able to do it at all. But maybe after a period of time, you are eventually able to do it. And the second time you try to let go of an unreasonable threat, it'll become easier. So it becomes a practice of letting it go. Now the fifth step is then you can do some deep breathing and Qigong practice. I really believe that Qigong can dramatically help anxiety and stress and these, especially the looping thoughts, because sometimes we can do all these steps, but our body's still holding on to that stress. So if we had our movement, if we identified the problem, if we determined if it's reasonable or not, and if we've taken some immediate action, then number 5 is now we have to get rid of the charge that's left up in the body. It's kind of like when it's wintertime and you develop, you're walking around and you get that static electricity in your body, and you touch the light switch and you get that zap. That's what Qigong or deep breathing exercise can do. So below I'll link to a very, very simple exercise that you can do to help get rid of anxiety. Practice that for 5 minutes or even 10 minutes. Just keep repeating it. It's very, very easy. And if you're part of the Communi-Qi, then I will link to other videos that are full routines that you can use that will help get rid of your anxiety immediately, but will also help cumulatively as well. So if you have anxiety from years ago, it'll help break that down over time without even needing to be conscious of it. So let me know what you think in the comment section below. How do you handle your anxiety and what have you found to be helpful? If you've liked this content, please feel free to like it, share it, and subscribe. And if you're interested in learning more about Qigong and this approach to overall health, then come join us at the Communi-Qi at qigongforvitality.com, and there's a link in the description box below. Thanks for watching.